they're used to doing, hanging out in the community and looking for a quick fix.
Right.
Now,
and that
now, I just want to bring up a couple of things, and then you can run it down for me. Like I said, there's a lot of people are going to try to go back to their old ways, and it comes back really quick when you're isolated or there's no services and no help for you. Now we're going to see certain things like the sex addiction. The bathhouses are closed, where a lot of gay men would have probably been socializing and doing drugs in something that they thought was a safe environment. 2, the gay bars, only seating 50 people. Now, these are alcoholics that attend bars on a regular basis or want to go there to see their favorite queen, and they just have an intention to drink just a little bit more than you.
Go see Scarlett for their 12 o'clock beer.
Hello. Now we're going to see a rise in evictions, because the government has now said that the landlord and tenant board can proceed now with evicting people. Also, the work situation in this pandemic, with a lot of the businesses closing, there's no real numbers of how many businesses have really closed and how many people are really out of work. But I do understand them when they talk about the evictions, and that the money that they have given to the majority of us to help us along. Now, I'm not saying that people should be evicted from their homes, but the fact that the government gave you $2,000 extra a month or whatever it was, which should have carried you for 3 months or 4 months in this pandemic that we have been going through. What do you think needs to happen now? What do you think should happen with the evictions? Let's talk about that for a minute.
So, that is such a loaded question, because under normal circumstances, I would say you haven't paid your rent, you need to go. Now, we have just 6 months into a pandemic. We have the highest unemployment rate that we've had in probably since the 30s, when the dirty 30s hit. People literally have no jobs, and they're given this $2,000 a month. Now, when somebody is making $3,500 a month or more, and then they have to live off of $2,000, and their rent is $1,800. I think that we need to have a bit of compassion for that. And, in BC, what has happened is people have 2 years to pay back the rent that they owe. So if you move out of your apartment building before that 2 years and you haven't paid, they have the right to take you to court, right? I agree with both that. So I agree that people should not be evicted, but they should have to pay the rent that they owe, because at the end of the day, you pay what you need to take accountability, and you need to say, you know what, I'm back to work. I'm going to pay an extra $200 a month until I'm paid off, right? Perfect. Because you know what? Every building owner was given a bailout from this government for them to cover their losses, right? So the government has already helped them. They're not out any money, right? They may have not been given the full 100%, but, so single family units were in Vancouver were given $300 a month rent relief from the government. So I have a friend who lives in my building. He pays $1,500 a month for his apartment. When he was on CERB and he was getting the supplement, he had to pay $1,200 a month. But that only left him with $800 a month, right? So thankfully, his car company took care of his payments while this was going on, whatever. But there's so much more. People aren't just paying their rent. They're paying their, I pay my rent. I pay my car. I pay my insurance. I pay my student loan payment. I've got lots of shit to pay.
Okay.
So,
what should happen to the people that don't pay anything.
So are they not paying because they're choosing not to, or because they can't?
The reason I say that is because there's going to be a lot of people out there that thinks the government money is just free money.
Right.
They know they're getting the money, but the majority of the people will think that the money is free money and that they don't need to pay their loan right away, because at the beginning of the pandemic, the government did say, well, we're going to stop evictions. We're going to, put it on hold. We're asking the landlords to have some compassion. And of course, they gave them a little bit of time in between. But yet within the 2 months or the 3 months that they were giving you time, there's $6,000 that they gave to a potential tenant. And I understand that they need to eat and understand that you need to pay the hydro. But these are things, I'm just saying, the reason I'm saying this is because from my experience, they didn't give me a dime, but they gave me my tax money, my trillium and my, GST. That's it.
Right.
But for people who got the 2,000, let's just say this is going into the 4th month now, you have $8,000. There should be no way you should be $8,000 in debt of your rent. Even if you gave the landlord half of the 2,000,
right,
you should only be a month or a month and a half behind in your rent. Now, if you were behind before this pandemic, then
that's on you.
Okay. Now, I don't want to get into the whole political thing about how people should run their lives with it, but I just wanted to talk about the eviction thing because I think that it's important that we bring that up during the pandemic.
And eviction here's the thing though, is eviction causes way more issues than just throwing that person out of the apartment. Now we've got a person on the street and now they're going to be accessing our government services, right? So it's this snowball effect. And, so if we evict everybody in Toronto, good luck.
I was trying to narrow it down about the.
So here's the thing.
If you, the wagon thing.
Right. So here's the thing. In BC, if you were doing anything that a landlord viewed as unethical while you're not paying your rent, you were allowed to evict them. An agreement that I would make with a tenant is I would say, you know what, you're doing everything possible to help yourself. So I'm going to just leave you alone. But if you showed up to my door after a 3-day meth bender to talk about how you couldn't pay your rent because you had no job, I probably wouldn't have any sympathy. Because
now, I mean, I just want to cut and dry. So let's leave it there, okay?
Yeah.
I want to talk about the next thing. Is, as you know, a lot of the LGBT Two-Spirit pronoun community is out of work or they get government assistance. And we live in the most fall off the wagon community anywhere on the planet, the LGBT community.
Yeah. I call the 12-step meetings in the gay community the comeback time. Every Saturday night you see it, and it's the same 12 people coming back from their Friday night debauchery. And what it is when people relapse, especially after a long time of sobriety, these people who are 5, 6, 7 years clean and they think it's going to be different. It's because they forgot their step one, and that is where they admit that they have an addiction and that they're powerless over it. And that's usually where you'll learn that person's story. And so what I say is people forgot their step one, right? Which is to show up and admit and be accountable on a daily basis. So unfortunately, this community and the apps are the biggest setup for a person struggling in recovery. Those apps are it's like meth head central on Grindr and Scruff. It just is. And it's even worse on BBRT. And so like for me, I keep my dating app use to a minimum, and I'm never on them after 10 o'clock at night, because I know that 95% of the people out there are strung out and methed out, and it's only gotten worse since this pandemic has started. And it's an unsafe situation, because at least when you're at a bathhouse, there's staff, it's monitored, there's other people there, so you really can't be victimized there. You know, like when we were talking about the story about Ryan Boa, you know, that happened in his private home. He brought somebody home to drink, and all of a sudden he was not into what was going on, and the guy beat him and raped him. And those things don't happen at bathhouses. And people say it's disgusting that we have drug use in the bathhouses. You know what? Bathhouses are not churches. And, you know, we're not there to go for dinner. We're not there to hang out. We're not there to make a friend. We're there to get laid. And I'm not advocating people to go to the bathhouse, but at least it's a safe environment. At least if somebody overdoses, there's probably Narcan at the front desk. You can save that person's life. And if you're in a private residence with a stranger, your story can be like Ryan Boa's, right? So bathhouses, you know, have only infused the dysfunction on the apps, right? And even though everyone's like, oh, we're going to do our part, you know, we're reminding everybody to social distance, you know, not to hook up. We're taking the quick connect and party listing ability ads, you know, sections off of our apps while this is going on. Well, no, close the fucking app, right? We're not looking for COVID stats on fucking Grindr. And the only reason they left it open is because people have paid subscriptions. So they don't want to lose that money. And so it's gross.
Well, you know, let me cut you off for a minute there. I want to get on to something else that will tie into that. Right. Now, you know, a lot of the performers haven't really woken up to the reality that this actually might be the end of their career. This pandemic might be the real end to a lot of their careers and their legacies in the community, which is soon to disappear. Whether through the fact of we're going to all in the next year or 2 or 3 years try to get back on track, get back to our lives, rebuild our credit, rebuild our homes, rebuild some sort of normalcy we're used to. But for performers who are already marginalized and mentally ill and suffering from addictions, they have not come to the realization that being inside your house as an entertainer must be terrifying. I am lucky because I know how to talk. So they pay me to talk. So this is the pandemic is working for me in a sense. But I feel really, even though a lot of them I don't like, and I don't like the way they've done things, and they've done things to me and many others, I really feel that the pandemic for the performers in our community will have a real devastating impact, if it's not already having an impact, because we know queens have the biggest prides in the world. And we know how the majority of them live, because you know we've been to a lot of their homes, even before the pandemic.
You know what? There's this meme going around saying that it's a Deborah Cox meme, and you know, prides have been canceled worldwide, and they said that Deborah Cox is going to have her, is going to, you know, essentially it's you know, people are making jokes, and it's true. Deborah Cox really probably cashes in on the Pride season, legendary performer, Toronto-based, legend. But is she going to be legendary after this, right? Is what the question is. And here's the thing, is there was not a lot of opportunity to make money as a drag queen prior to 2009. Well, no, I'm going to say after season 4 of Drag Race, when people saw it was $100,000 prize, every bitch in town all of a sudden wanted to put on a face, And here's the thing. You can be taught how to dress. You can be taught how to do makeup, and you can be taught how to do a wig, but you cannot teach talent.
There you go. That's true.
And I say that because as a competitive figure skater, I know these things. And I know that if I really wanted to focus on doing drag and, and I auditioned for Drag Race Canada, because I know how to talk and because I know how to act, I would probably pass that audition, right? But then we'd get to that sewing challenge and fuck bitch, I would be dead. I'd be the first one up lip syncing. And knowing my luck, I would be put up next to somebody like a Shea Coulee, and I'd get, it would just be the way it happened, right? And I mean, if you went home to somebody like Shea Coulee, I mean, that's not such a bad end to your story. But, I feel sorry for the contestants from season 12 of this year and from All Stars 5 and, of course, from Canada's Drag Race because, all these girls had things lined up, right? Once their casts were announced, they were, all these cast announcements were done before the pandemic. And so they had fucking schedules full, And, the season 12 winner got her $100,000, right? But usually you're going to make another $200,000 by the time you've done all your shit after your first year. And you better have banked that money because then there's another bitch coming up the pipe with another crown. And you know what? She's going to be thinner and she's going to have more fucking filler in her lips. And she's going to have that one extra dance move that you don't have. And all of a sudden she's headlining the tour while you're in second. Now, if you look at statistics in Hollywood and show business, less than 1% make it. And I'm not saying the person who has a regular spot or a regular sentence on Sense8 on Netflix. I'm talking about the bitch who's booking a $30 million movie. And the same can be said for drag. Now, you were very fortunate because you got an opportunity that a lot of bitches didn't. And when you got onto Lacage, that was a fucking select group of girls, and you couldn't just be a one-trick pony. You had to have a plethora of skills to show, and you do. And it's not just that you looked like Janet Jackson or that you had nice clothes. It's because you could get on stage and you could stop audiences, and you fucking kicked and bucked and did splits and backflops and flip-flops and all of that shit. And you can still do it at 60. But the bitch who fills in on a Sunday night at Woody's between the head performers, they're all of a sudden going to be canceled out because there's not going to be that budget. And I'm hoping that they will have realized that they weren't going to be the next Brooklyn Heights. And I'm not trying to insult them, but you better have something down the pipe for plan B. Because if you don't have plan B, plan C is going to be the streets. So that is my lesson to these girls, is that I had lots of money when I quit skating, and now I don't have lots of money. And so take it from an old seasoned bitch like me that you better just get a fucking job. And in 3 years, if drag starts to pick up again, pull those fucking Le Chateau dresses that you happen to buy and pull out your makeup and maybe book a few gigs here and there. But less than 1% of you are going to have a career. And that's just the real tea. And it's not.
Well, you're so right. You're so right. I see that even I will be very surprised if even RuPaul's Drag Race can hold on for 3 years while everybody struggles through trying. It doesn't matter which city you're in.
Well, it's not RuPaul's Drag Race that has to worry. It's owned by VH1, and they are a $1 billion company. So the production for them is very little. They're already. It's common knowledge. Season 13 is being filmed right now. The girls were sequestered and isolated for 14 days before they were allowed to go on set. And so we're all, I feel sorry for VH1 because they literally had to rent 6 hotels to sequester all of their staff. Because you cannot work on set until you've isolated for 14 days. And even then, it's there and back, and nobody goes home now.
Well, for me, I wasn't trying to pick the show out in general. I was trying to make it clear that most businesses will be struggling to get back on track. Now, these performers, whether you're RuPaul's 13, 14, or 15, we know nobody in Canada, and mainly we know we've been around this country forever. We know nobody's going to pay you $3,000 to see you. Mainly when we have to socialize. When we have to socialize at a distance, we can have very few customers in the bar. We can have very few people.
No meet and greets.
There you go. And this is a no time limit thing. So there's no time limit on when all of this will change. Right. Of course, it's going to change slowly. But what happens with the communication between you, the community, RuPaul's Drag Race, or whatever bar or shows or pageantry system are trying to put these communities back together that were connected so well?
Here's they've canceled Continental this year. They've canceled Miss Gay USA. They've canceled EOY. Some of those girls had already spent thousands of dollars on their packages. They spent sometimes 2 years getting ready for that event. So, thankfully, I'm sure the owner of Continental, Jim Flint, has a few dollars on the side that he can take the loss this year. But he's a smart that bitch is smart. That guy is, I don't care how old he is, that guy knows how to run a business.
Well, he's old school. Yeah. Old school, honey.
That guy, you know what? I swear to God, it's the Botox in his forehead that keeps him alive. But, sorry, Jim, I'm just kidding. But does he want to go? Do I want to put this money up next year? Because is that bitch going to make me money because she can't go anywhere? Right? And I guess I shouldn't say, that bitch, but usually.
Well, we know that just in the business sense, Jim Flint is smart. And not just Jim Flint, many business people are smart. Yeah. And of course, they're going to have in the back of the frame of their mind is that we used to pay this person this. We used to pay this person this. And we knew the basic overall budget. Right. But now, of course, when these other reality shows start pushing for, let's just say Pose, they start pushing the trans women to do talks, to do meet and greets, like you said. And these kinds of things are going to come up. And then, of course, there's going to be RuPaul trying to push her winner or the contestants from RuPaul's Drag Race. And then you're going to have other groups like the Balls seem to be making a comeback now. The legendary Balls, they've stepped those up a bit. They're going to be pushing. And when you think about it, they glamorize a lot of these things into making them look like it's show business, stuff that would be very appealing to us if we weren't in this pandemic. Right. But Chadwick, I have to say this. I think that the girls hustling online is good and bad.
So I'm going to tell you the good. So the good is when you see somebody like Tasha Long, who is a legend and one of the finest, Dionne Warwick, Whitney Houston. She can pull any of those divas from the African community out, and she fucking does it like you wouldn't believe. And I know you do Dionne Warwick too. I was just giving an example, but
I understand.
yeah,
I don't hate.
But when you see her on Zoom and she's working, she has decorated for the gods, and she is professional. You do not see the cocktail glass on the side. When she's talking to her guests, you see she's got a fucking bottle of water. You know, she's not one of those girls. Now, here's the problem that I have is she was talking about how she struggled to make a couple $100 on Vimo and Cash App, but there was this queen, a nobody, who got so drunk that she passed out halfway through her number and woke up to $1,900 in tips. Now, this is something that was brought up in the first episode of Drag Race when they were all discussing, you know what, I got sober because I was a fucking mess. I didn't like how I was drunk. The person who went home first was this beautiful queen named Juicebox. She told her story, and she said that people stopped coming to her shows once she got sober because people enjoyed to see what antics she would get up to when she was drunk, because she was one of those reactive drunks. Now, I don't care what anybody says. You know, she went home first, but when she did her lip sync for her life, I was like, you know, I kind of like this bitch. She's got some, she's got some talent. She's pretty. She's got some personality on stage. Is she a legend? I don't know. Will she be? I don't know. But the point is she's got some talent. I'm not going to say she's the next star of Canada, but the fact that people stopped going to her shows because she no longer was a staggering drunk on stage is kind of, it just irritates the shit out of me. Because as a community, we should not be encouraging our community members to act like hot messes. And so you tipped this queen $1,900 in tips because she's passed out on her Facebook Messenger app live or whatever, and you think it's funny. Well, how the fuck do you know she hadn't popped pills and didn't overdose and she wasn't sitting there dead? And
now,
so,
okay, go ahead.
So these girls that are,
I want to go back to just so I don't want to interrupt you too much. I want to talk about Tasha Long and the connection between her and Anaya, who they call the Sleeping Queen. Now, I understood. To be honest, I understood how she made the money, and it was no fault of her own. It was the fact that she was trying to do something, I think, that was trying to benefit her friend, and it ended up benefiting her.
Right.
Because she couldn't just hold on. No. She did all she could to do what she could to support her friend, but in the meantime, she was so tired or whatever the situation was or so drunk, she just passed out. But the intentions were made at the beginning of watching Anaya. She was there to support her friend.
Right. But
now, with Tasha Long, to me, I understand what she's saying, but people like Tasha Long should have a family, because she's put herself in so many of those pageant families. She should be working in a family, to me, and to the Continental Queen should have a telethon, all of them performing like they were doing with local merch. And I'm sure they were making some money. They probably didn't make enough money because the egos got involved. So,
well, there's a few of those Continental girls that kind of think the world is about them, and and
we understand. Now, the thing with Tasha Long for me is sometimes you can't do things alone and think the world is going to say, you're Tasha Long, or you're Janet Jackson, or you're Tina Turner, and we feel sorry for you. Here's $1 million. Doesn't happen like that. What happens is that people have an attention span of a gnat.
And
What
I'll
is
be honest.
what is it that you're doing? 1 minute. What is it that you're doing, Tasha Long, that the other 20 pageant queens from Continental aren't doing and looking just like you or better than you? And they're on at the same time as you. So who should we choose to watch? It's like watching TV.
Here's the thing. When I see those Facebook Live posts, right, it's usually American queens. In Canada, we can't use Vimo or Cash App because to prevent organized crime transferring money, we can't use cash apps amongst North American countries. So like we have e-transfer up here, but they don't have e-transfer down there. You can't e-transfer money to an American person. So I feel that guilty watching because I'm like, like I should be throwing them a couple bucks, but I can't do that because it's just not doable. And but here's the thing. A lot of those girls, and especially the drag race girls, should have money in their bank for that rainy day. There's a few of them that are doing nothing right now. And so that they were stacking their cash away and they're posting, laying on their couch in their houses on Instagram, not caring about anything. Smart girls. Smart. You'll never have a problem in the future because you'll go out and work again. And if this ever happened again, you're going to be good. I feel bad for the girls who just came off their seasons because this was their year to make that money for that rainy day. Now, as for Tasha Long is a legend, an iconic legend in the United States and only amongst a certain age of people who know her. Now, I happened to meet her in Orlando and we had a great chat. Whenever I go to Orlando and I go to Southern Nights, I always see her. She always comes up and says hi. She's a very gracious person, but she is not, Cash App and Venmo is such a millennial thing that like, do I see a bunch of 25-year-olds that are going to sign into Facebook to watch Tasha Long do Dionne Warwick or some old school Whitney Houston?
No.
If you ask anybody under 25 who Dionne Warwick is, they're going to say, oh, I've heard that name, some black singer from the States.
It's, let's not dig too deep into it.
Yeah.
We understand that there's very little money being made from the queen, no matter how hard they try to do their hustle. I want to wrap this up. I hope that during this pandemic time that the queens will understand that they need a second career, and they will understand that, like we've always known, show business is hard. And now with the pandemic, it's become harder. And how do you separate yourself from the others? How do you get someone's attention who's not really paying you any attention? Because record companies, TV shows aren't really looking for anybody to do nothing. Not even Netflix, who's just open to our community.
Right.
These things down the road, they have so many shows already in the pipeline. You can imagine how many movies we would have already seen if the celebrities weren't on lockdown and they couldn't do the movies that they're already contracted to do.
Right.
So in all fairness, I hope that during this pandemic, a lot of people don't fall off the wagon. They seek the help that they need. They continue to try to do what they do to keep a roof over their heads. And they continue to try to just create some content on, whether it's online, offline, that will be valuable to them in the future. So they don't end up in this situation again, because I really do find coming up in the winter months is going to be the most challenging months for all of us. We
Right.
haven't seen the drama yet.
You know what? The gyms are open. I encourage every person to even just go and lift 5-pound weights. Do something with your day.
You're right. Do something.
Do something. I can't remember who it is, but they says that today deserves a great you. So show up for yourself and you know, and get support from those people who want to support you, and you know, and support your local queens. But
you know, I want to say this here in closing. You know, I want the drag queens out there, the performers, the dancers, and a lot of people who were thinking about opening a business, no matter what it was, but especially to our community, the LGBT Two-Spirit pronoun community. I want them to understand that this is an opportunity for them now. You drag queens out there, you've been watching each other do shows. You know who's doing what. You know who's determined. You know who's professional. You know how they look. You've been watching. Remember this, leases, buildings are for sale now. Lots of leases are everywhere. All the rents are dropping down really low now. Lots of places for you to think about owning your own drag clubs, having your own drag business.
Stephanie, you should open your own.
A lot. You know me. I've been talking to my sister, and she's been like, "You too old," but
oh.
She said, "I'm too old to be trying to be worried with these children," and she's probably right. And these girls need to think about that now. This is the perfect time for them to get together, even unionize themselves, understand that they can't be doing shows for drink tickets and doing shows for not what they're worth. They need to understand their worth. And they need to understand that there's an opportunity now for them to have their own clubs. Right. And on that note, I'm going to say, you know, I hope people don't fall off the wagon. Be strong. Get the help you need. If you need to reach out to somebody, reach out to Chadwick or send me a message and I'll send it to him. Hopefully, people will get the help that they need, and hopefully we will survive all of this madness with whatever addiction we are dealing with.
Let's stop being statistics. That's stop being statistics.
That's great. That's great.
That's stop being statistics. Not the good ones that say, you know, you're part of this statistic that has changed your life. I'm talking about the other statistics that we look at, because people don't ever look for the good statistics. They want to see the discrepancy in statistics. So I'm talking about the people that are dying, the people that are being raped and not reporting, the people that are being assaulted and not reporting. Let's stop being those statistics.
Thank you, Chad Conley.
You're welcome. Thanks. It's great to hang out with you again, Steph.
You too. We will chat again soon.
Absolutely.
Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to say thank you to Chadwick Conley for being very informative. We had a great long conversation here today about people falling off the wagon, about where we think drag will be in a few years and where we're going to go, what people should do to try to reach out to get the help that they need. And hopefully we've had enough of a conversation and enlighten somebody to help people to understand that you are not alone. We are all going through this, but the challenging times are coming. And mainly in Toronto, with the fact of the winter months are right at our doorstep. So take care of yourself, people, and do what you can. And over and out, Chadwick, hopefully somewhere along the line, there'll be a silver lining coming soon. But until then,
absolutely,
my friends, good luck. And I will chat with you soon, Chadwick.
Take care.